So I want to answer a pretty straightforward question that is quite common, and that is shelf life testing. What is it? How do you do it? Can you do it any faster? And where do you start? It literally is what it says on the tin. When it comes to low risk products like bakery products, so we're not talking about creams or dairy or meats or anything like that. We're talking about ordinary bakery products, a lot of sugar, cakes, cupcakes, buns, tray bakes, biscuits. It's pretty straightforward. You literally make as many products as you're going to test for whatever length of time you're going to test. So for my biscuits, I test, I want a year's shelf life. So I make about 50, I think it's 56, 58 packets of biscuits, and I put them on the shelf. Every week I open a packet of biscuits and taste it. That's shelf life testing. Does it taste good? Has it gone off? Is it iffy? So you write it down. Keep it really simple. Um, Use a spreadsheet. In the early days I wrote it down. But you wrote the date on it, day zero, my initials, how did it look, what did it smell like, what it tasted like, and what the mouth feel was like. Good crunch, not crumbly, smooth icing. Very nice. So that was great on day zero. By day 400, I think it was, something around there, well over a year, it started to get a bit iffy. So the quality wasn't as good. It had lost its matte finish. It was starting to look a bit shiny. It was a bit too much water. Something had gone iffy on it. And when you opened it, it smelled a bit plasticky. So there's just one day, just the next pack, the next biscuit smelled a bit, something's not quite right there. So I opened another one, and it was the same. The day before had been okay, but that day was a bit, something slightly off here. 2 or 3 days later, you open a pack and whoa, we're not eating that. So that's what you're looking for. You're literally waiting for them to go off, and you test them every day, every week, every month, whatever it is, up to that date. So it depends how long your shelf life is going to be. If it's going to be a 7 to 10 day product, test it every day. Just package them exactly the same way you sell them, put them on the shelf, take them out, and test them. So store them the way your customer expects to store them. Don't put them in the fridge. If it's an ambient temperature product, you don't put biscuits in the fridge. Your customer's going to buy it. Where are they going to put it? Stick it in the cupboard somewhere, stick it in a drawer, whatever it is. You do the same, whatever they expect it to. Once you get to the stage where the quality has either reduced or the safety of it tastes off, you take a step back from that. So you go back a couple of days, a couple of weeks. In my case, I went back 2 months. So my products are actually fine for nearly, I think it's 18 months, but I put a year on them. Then I changed packaging, and it was not as good. I restarted the sampling again, and after 6 months they were fine, 7 months they were fine, 8 months, no, they started to go really horrible. They interacted with the plastic because I changed the type of film. So when I go back to flow wrapping, at the moment I'm hand bagging with a little gel sealer. When I go back to flow wrapping, I'll be able to retest them again, and it should be back well over a year. So you've got to test them with your own packaging, just the way you're going to sell them, and that's all you're doing. And writing it down is the key thing. As long as you've proven that you've tested them and checked them and tasted them, and if you miss a week, you miss a week. That's, fine not to, but don't panic. The test's not over. Eat one the following week. Just put the accurate date on it. Don't muck about with this. You're getting into legals when it comes to shelf life testing. So making sure you don't poison people. Now, there is a difference between quality and safety. So if your product doesn't taste quite as good as you want it to for the customer, put that date on it. Once you've got to the date where the quality has started to reduce, you can put that date on. You don't have to wait till it goes off to put that date on it. So the safety is the issue. Now, it depends on your product. If you're dealing with cream, you'll know you put cream in the fridge and it's been opened. 3 days later, there's a use by date on it. A use by means you don't muck about. You throw it out. If it's best before, it's best before then, but it's not the end of the world. I've eaten biscuits that are months past their best before dates, and they were fine. Same with canned food. It lasts for years and years. They'll have a date on it they want you to use it by. That's the best quality of product that they want to give you. They don't want you eating an inferior quality product because it reflects badly on them. You won't buy any more because you'll remember that one's a bit, it's not great. What you really don't want is to get them anywhere near the date where it's going to make them sick. So use by is for specific types of foods that where the bacteria in the food goes bananas. It just multiplies at an alarming rate. You can have a look online for bacteria multiplication animations. We're talking a few bacteria, which has no effect on you because your stomach will process it, to millions of bacteria, where the difference between tasting a wee bit of lumpy cream versus the day later when there's a forest growing on it is somewhere in the middle there, where it still looks okay, but it is past its use by date. Somewhere in there is the difference between feeling a bit iffy and talking to God on the big white telephone at 3 a.m. There is a difference. So you need to get it right. You don't want your products eating inferior quality product, and you certainly don't want to make them sick. If you do make them sick, there are other bodies and agencies who want to get involved. You need to report it. You need to do product recalls, all that kind of thing. So shelf life testing, keep it simple, but get it right. There are types of products where you have to do things like lab testing. You can't test for certain types of bacteria in your home. You can put stuff on the shelf and take it off and test it. But if you'll know if you're doing a high risk product. You can have a look online and see what there is. There's loads of great resources for shelf life testing. One of the big brand names that comes up regularly if you do a search on Google is Camden BRI in the UK. They're a food lab. You can send food to them. You can get it tested. You can do all sorts of fancy things. But they're good for that level of testing and that type of testing, depending on the product you're trying to produce. Have a look first, though, at safefood.net. So Camden BRI have provided an advisor to write a piece on shelf life testing. Now, safefood.net is the all-Ireland body for promoting safe food, how to cook your turkey at Christmas, how not to poison yourself. But they have lots of resources for food businesses as well. And one of them is specifically a shelf life page. So in there's a whole breakdown of all the different things that influence shelf life. The content of the food, how it's packaged, the type of food that it is, when it's grown, and the activity that happens in your product. So what actually happens, and I'm not a food scientist, but what actually happens in terms of your food is it changes, and the two biggest changes are pH and water activity. So your acid alkaline balance, your pH, and your AW or water activity, they change, and your bacteria can then get enough food to grow. And that's all you're doing, is feeding the bacteria. At some point, your product breaks down or interacts with its packaging or gets enough air from the atmosphere to allow the bacteria to grow to unsafe levels. Different types of bacteria, different growth rates, all that kind of thing. That's what labs are for. But that's what you're doing. You're working out when your food goes off. When you've worked that out, you put the date a little bit before that, put that date on your packaging, and that's it. So you know when you make the product, it's got a 6 month shelf life. So 6 months from the date of production, the date it's been processed and packaged, 6 months from now, it's still safe. That's the date that goes on your packaging. Keep it simple and make sure you document it. And that's your shelf life testing effectively done. Accelerated shelf life testing is where you send it to a lab and they will increase the water activity and the pH imbalance and the atmosphere changes gradually, and they will do it in a controlled way. So you can shorten shelf life testing to a degree. You can't do a year shelf life testing in a week. It doesn't work. You've still got to do it over a period of time. So what do you do at the very start? So you want a year on your product. Are you going to make a year's worth of products, stick them on the shelf, and then not sell anything? That would be very expensive. What I did with my biscuits was put 3 months shelf life on it. So I tested it up to 4 months and then put a 3 month shelf life on it. Took it to the shops after 3 months and said, there we go. Or after 4 months and said, there you go. These have got 3 months shelf life. I'm new. I keep testing them. I'll keep increasing that shelf life as we go along. If they sell, great. And they did sell and shops bought them. After 6 months, I changed the packaging to 6 months shelf life. Did the same again at a year. Some of the products, the iced products, I had to then change that back to 6 months because the packaging changed. I changed from flow wrap to manually sealed. It'll go back to over a year once I get the flow wrap sorted. But so my new bagging machine is built. But have a look at safefood.net. There's a whole section on there relating to types of foods, when to use labs, lots of good free information. So where do you start? Have a look at your competitors. How long are their products lasting? They might have additional ingredients in their products. So there are things like lactic acid. So I think it's a fruit derivative. You can get lactic acid and you put it in your product and it will inhibit certain types of bacteria from growing. So that increases the shelf life. Now, if that type of bacteria doesn't grow in your product, there's no point in putting it in. If it messes up the quality of your product or is too expensive or whatever it is, then you don't put it in. You just have a shorter shelf life. That's your product. That's how it works. But there are other ingredients you can add to increase shelf life. So you've got to work out what those are. And it is literally just Google it. Find out what type of bacteria grows in your product. So you could Google what bacteria grows in biscuits. Then you Google what ingredients will stop the growth of whatever your bacteria is. But don't torture yourself. The other thing you can do is ask your EHO. They will have resources. They'll probably send it to the Safe Food site or the FSA website. Or you can contact somebody like Camden BRI, contact some of the labs and ask them for some of the information. They'll be able to help you, and they usually do. They're pretty friendly people. I just ask them and they'll say, this is the type of bacteria you're looking for. If you want us to do a lab test, this is the cost. If you want to do it yourself, carry on. But that's what you're looking for. What type of bacteria grows on your food and how do you stop it? There's all there really is to it. So that's shelf life testing. Make enough product that you can test it on a regular basis, stick it on the shelf, open it up, eat it. If it's good, write it down. If it's bad, write it down. Work back a couple of weeks or months or days, and that's your best before date.